We can go watch Jared have fun in the next meeting.
Well, since Jim's not gonna make it.
If we buzz through, let's be efficient.
Mic is on whenever you're ready.
So we'll have a second to adopt the agenda for tonight. Jose, why don't you lead us off?
Okay, so before I begin, I'm gonna talk about the website and then I want to go back to the Zoom discussion. Because I don't think there's an email that was sent out on that. So celebration website, as I mentioned in the email that I sent to you, we had to get a separate DNS provider. So I put in a document a breakdown of how it works. The registry only provides you with your WHOIS entries, and it only lets you click the hosting names or the DNS server names with the IP addresses. You're limited to 4, but 2 of them at any point in time is live. All right. That information was documented and stored. Then when we try to do the transfer over from celebration-fl to .fl, we needed to route that to the appropriate DNS. So we contacted EasyDNS and we pretty much got a 5-year contract with them to keep those host names. And then we just took those IP addresses, mapped it to those host names and put it on the registrar, and that was resolved. Once we did that, that's when we did the cutover and made sure everything was
So the
working.
login and the authentication that was failing the first day was all DNS entries.
And this includes Office 365 and it included Gmail. So they were all using the same DNS entry. Typically you would create a subdomain and then at that point you would just do the records on that subdomain and not use the actual domain
Right.
itself. But for whatever reason, that's what the design was and I kept it as is. All I did was just change the host names and the IP addresses and I got everything working. There was some downtime with the Gmail, but that was unexpected. Again, we didn't know what the DNS was located at. Once that was done, I reached out to the appropriate individuals. Jordan McCullum was kind enough to reach out to me and he was working it out and sure enough, we figured it out and it was working. So it is up. Information is being uploaded now periodically. There are some caveats. Krista pointed out a couple of them and we addressed some of them, not all of them. I'm working with Mark from Freshy Sites to address those pain points. And then they're minor issues. You would click on a menu and it might not navigate on an Android phone correctly. Or those are things that they're ironing out. So those requests that you had submitted, that you had told me about, I already sent it to Mark.
I think one of the things too right now is just the login.
Sorry.
If you're a general user and you go to like meeting information and you log in, it redirects you back to the homepage. as opposed to keeping you on the meeting information. So user experience there is you're going to meeting information, you get the login screen, I log in, I go back to the homepage, I go back to the menu and I click meeting information again. So, I mean, it's more of an annoyance, but we should probably address that at some point as well.
That was like that before, though. That's not a new thing.
That should be an easy fix because it looked like there's a redirect checkbox in your plugin. I mean, it looks like the site is basically all plugins. And there's not. It's not.
Yeah,
We're just gonna go with that. It's like all plugins. So yeah.
so a lot of even the original one was mostly plugins. So we had to substitute one with another one. So.
Yeah.
I did get feedback about having our meeting information visible, easy to find on there and the recordings.
So what is that recommendation?
Just that they couldn't find it. So I haven't checked recently, but so if you just go to the committees and like our monthly, like was it announced in there about today that?
So due to the transition, there was a little bit of a delay where we couldn't put anything up.
Okay,
And now we've been just putting them up as they come in.
I saw it Friday. That's Monday night. I saw it in one of those emails, but I don't know if it was on the site.
If you go to the celebration website, town hall website, is our committee meeting on the calendar?
Yeah.
Not on the calendar, but actually in the meeting.
In the meeting information, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, all right,
There's another guest waiting.
okay.
It's there. That's how I got to this.
Agree with Krista though, regardless of how it's ever been, why would you have a person go to the meeting tab and be redirected to login and then have that person now directed back to the homepage again and I have to press the meeting
So
tab? Stay where he is.
it's something we can address.
Yeah, it's a checkbox, so
We'll do it.
you shouldn't have to log in twice or be presented with a login page twice either. So,
Has there been any town feedback about the website? Is there
And
feedback?
we had a couple of residents that showed up and they were very receptive
Yeah.
to how fast it was moving.
Nothing negative though, like we're getting a stream of people complaining.
No, there was some complaints, but they were valid complaints. You know, they were missing documents. They were, but stuff that once we got word of it, hey, address it quick, and then they would go and upload.
Just supposed to see those feedback.
No, they were in person, so,
in person.
yeah,
I don't know if
we
we
in
have
person and over the
feedback
phone,
mechanisms
it
or I've
wasn't-
seen the-
but yeah, it wasn't many, it was about 5 people,
Okay.
so.
So what's our next steps here? Because I know the website was never really under the technology committee to begin with, and we kind of ended up with it just because I was helping with it a little bit. So what's our next steps there? Are we gonna continue to work with the website? Are we identifying additional issues and working through those? Or are we kind of calling this project done and then it goes back to operational?
I would like, can I ask, I would like for the experts who've done this before to look into it and tell me what those deficiencies are, what recommendations you can make. And then at that point, I'll take it, I'll run it to Freshie sites, and if something we can do ourselves, we'll do it ourselves. And just checkbox before we hand it over to communications, which is that's their responsibility. They're supposed to upload all the content. We just want to make sure that the framework is solid and it's working.
But updates never rest though.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's always WordPress updates going on. So
That is something I have to discuss with Freshie. Because we can have them responsible for that and they'll just deal with the updates
At a cost.
at a cost, but
Could we set up like quarterly reviews of the website and then the technology behind it and maybe make recommendations to the communication group after it's up?
You do whatever. I just wanna make sure we have,
Yeah.
like, we either have an end date or a plan, like, instead of just it sitting out there.
so we'll write out a plan. And then I guess she'll give me the information as to what needs to be addressed. And then we could put dates on. And then we just iron it out and once we check that off, we can hand it off, do a proper handoff procedure. Say that it was fully vetted out.
And we should probably be clear about like what needs to be done versus what, like, I mean. There's always feedback, like rearranging the menus, things like, I mean, I've heard things that people can't find stuff on the website. So like, I mean, there was even something in the communications advisory group to do a full overhaul, but then, you know, you're starting at understanding what is the, like, going through each of the use cases and understanding what does it look like? How do we make things make sense? So like, where does the line draw of getting a functional website again versus where do we start looking at it and where are the deficiencies as far as user experience, missing like organization of documents, like all of those things that make it useful to our residents. So where do we draw the line of like, okay, all the malware's done, it's functioning again, we have a process and the documents are getting up there and people can get what they need versus now, how do we make it better?
We gotta create a baseline, and then from there, start graphing out a proper process and policy where this is what it's gonna be going.
And if it's a priority, because maybe it's not, maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know who would set that, if we set that, if the board would set that, but if it's, we have a lot of projects, so just making sure we're working on the ones that are the priority.
How long was it down from the last hack?
It was like a year before it got back up. I mean, like to where we are today, it was
Wow.
back in September of last year that the malware hit it. Now I'm sure it could have been done faster. So, but yeah. It didn't require a year's worth of time, but it was down, like everything was messed up for a long time.
Paul, were you able to see today's meeting on the website?
Didn't try.
I just asked.
But it was posted.
Well, Corbett said he logged in from it, or Nil did. Somebody said that they went onto the website and logged in from there.
So
I logged in, I went to the website, clicked on the technology meeting and logged in.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Danelle.
iron that out, and then I'll communicate to Krista separately so that we can create a plan and a plan of attack basically, and see what we need to address.
Okay.
Zoom. Want to talk about Zoom? Because I know we're pressed for time.
What's the cost?
For Zoom?
Yeah.
All right, so let me explain what's going on. It's really for the CROA board meetings. We're starting to experience issues. Well, we've been experiencing issues with the meetings. And we tested out Zoom and 104, and we managed to have it work in 104. Now it's, for me, when you're dealing with big conferences, and I can't speak for everyone else, but from my experiences, when you do big conferences, a lot of people, you use something like WebEx or GoTo or Zoom. Teams, I've known from my personal experience, you use in smaller group settings. You wouldn't use for something massive. You got 70, 80 people.
What about the Teams live events? That's how we do all of our like 500 person meetings.
So I've never used it in here. So everything is done directly through the Teams, not Teams live events.
Yeah,
I can
mean,
check.
it's part of Teams.
It's
like
part
you
of Teams.
said,
So I checked in the group policy to see where some of the issues that I was facing with configuration. There was issue with recordings, not holding up. Sometimes you'll see the recording emblem on the screen and the recording wouldn't drop off anywhere. You would have issues with transcribing, which we figured it out now, and we set that up. I don't know, I took a chance at it. It works. It's a matter of you guys deciding what you feel would be best.
I just want to chime in real quick. I apologize, I was late. Krista, I agree with you. We were switching actually to a lot of the Teams live events because it's more of the webinar capability rather than the actual like full meeting functionality. So I'm not saying one or the other. I'm just saying I think we should definitely look at what we may already have included as like a feature to leverage.
Yeah, and I think we should, my question would be around, my only issue that I have with Teams is the logins. I have multiple logins for Microsoft and it's challenging for me to get in with the right login. Does the
new teams, I found out you can have multiple. Because I switched to the update last week, and now I can have both on my computer at the same time and just switch for files like you could on the web before.
Okay, that'd be good.
So I was super excited about that.
If I go on customer teams with like town hall going in and it's hard to
Well,
switch.
that's some of the settings. This is why I'm here, this
Yeah.
topic, because I wanted to make sure that this got discussed because it's going to be talked about in the next meeting. Some of the settings that we're using, like, for example, we shouldn't have to approve every person in. And when Lauren's having to approve everyone coming into the big meeting, that doesn't make any sense. If you have the link, you can come to the meeting, and the link is behind a protected password site. So anyone that has that link should be able to join the meeting. We don't need to have that feature necessarily. And I am a proponent of staying in the Teams environment, especially if we were just switching it for the board meeting, but all the committee meetings and everything else would stay in Teams. That really doesn't make any sense. So I just wanted to provide that feedback. This group is who should make the recommendation to the board of what we should do. Teams Live is a great idea. That didn't even cross my mind, but that is the solution for that scale.
I think I brought it up just because I saw it on the Crow agenda and it wasn't something we've ever discussed. So it was like, that seems like a technology
So at
topic.
the last board meeting, the board sent this. That's why it's on here, because the board wants a recommendation from the technology committee.
It wasn't on our
What should we
agenda.
do?
It's not on our agenda. It's on the workshop agenda. It wasn't part of our agenda
Yeah,
at all.
This wasn't brought up to me till.
Yesterday when I emailed, or 2 days ago when I
Okay,
emailed,
so,
and
well,
said it's
then
on
that's
the
a
board workshop.
Grand managed failure, because it was clearly an action item from the board from the last board meeting.
So what I did was I tested the product. I made sure it worked. Make sure both cameras worked, I was informed to do so and it worked, but outside of that, it's not.
No, you didn't know. You weren't at that meeting. You didn't know, but I mean, it's on the recorded meeting from the last meeting. Action item for the technology committee is to do this. So that's also why I'm here, to make sure that's being communicated. Because that should have been communicated. Now, if there's not enough time to make that decision now, you need for the next board meeting on the 29th, we can push this to the 29th. If you need time to think about it and discuss over email.
I think the events should definitely be tested. That's what it needs
But the discussion item today is discussing
between
Teams versus Zoom. I don't know why that's the topic. Nobody was educated enough to say that. The discussion was around, why are we not recording all of our meetings and why are there inconsistencies in what's happening? That's the issue. And that's what needs fixed. However we get there, if that's Zoom or Teams Live or whatever, that's what we're looking for this committee to recommend.
Well, you're not part of all the other committee meetings, so there's probably people there that have no clue how to turn that on, like in dog park and stuff.
No, so a lot of it is set
On
on.
that committee and.
Yeah.
They do it.
They do it?
Danny
I
does that,
set
yeah.
I set them up now.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I set up the meetings now, just to
So
make
they
sure
could
that
be
they
all recorded.
record, and then now they're gonna transcribe as well, so.
Okay.
Just every now and then we run into these hiccups, and what I did for a failsafe was in yesterday's meeting. I had my streaming PC recording at the same time, just to make sure that if this didn't capture it, then.
It is odd that the meetings that aren't, because all the committee meetings record fine. It's just the board meetings,
Well,
which
you had
that's where the
issues,
show is.
you had issues. The first one was that you had the gaming system didn't have the firmware updates. We did that.
Okay.
We replaced the camera. So that's a brand new camera that's there. It hasn't gone down since, and you saw how much better it was behaving and looking. So, and we added the Polycom camera, which is the third camera that's on top of the TV, and that was recording as well.
Well, then that should be discussed today. The firmware update and other things like that, where we have improved the system that we have, should be discussed. So that people know there are things being done to fix this.
So,
You're not really gonna change the meeting experience until we actually put together a plan for what hardware looks like and what conferencing looks like in 2023 or 2024 by the time we get to it. Like, so it's a piecemeal system. We're gonna
Yeah.
deal with, there's gonna be inconsistencies, but frankly, if this building isn't gonna be here, it's not worth putting money into it until we figure out like what does that look like?
Well, but it's not a technology issue. In the last 30 days, we've had 4 major meetings not be recorded.
Yeah.
That's what has to get fixed. So what's the action item on this? What's the,
this should be put on hold.
okay.
Should be put on.
I don't know,
hold.
you were in the last one that wasn't getting recorded.
Yeah,
It wasn't,
I don't know why. I think it's just a matter of somebody's not pressing the button. It's that simple. I think if you press the button, it records.
So what I did was I went into the group policy management for Teams and I just enabled it. So now
You
all
press the
meetings
button.
get recorded, whether they get posted or not, that's a different issue, but they're all recorded and they all
Right.
get dumped into a one.
Required a manual concerted effort to actually press the button. That you may overlook that. It's like meeting gets started, you forget to press. That's all it happens.
Well, I would ask why Zoom? I mean, what's the thing behind to switch to Zoom? Is
It
it
was an alternative.
just an alternative?
It's an alternative, first of all. Secondly, it's more commonly used for bigger setups. Not that there's any pros and cons. For me, it's easier for me to manage right there and then. If I have an issue.
I mean, I personally see Zoom used the least out of
Yeah.
the top four. Most people use Zoom because it's free under a certain amount of
You use it for
users.
personal things versus
Right.
Our go-to
enterprise.
or WebEx, whichever one. I mean, there's so much variety out there that we can experiment with, but it was just to look at an alternative and see if it works. What sticks, just think as a fail-safe is really what I'm looking. Because that's what I was trying to avoid.
So it sounds like from an action perspective, they enabled a policy that now records every meeting, which eliminates if someone forgets to push the button.
Right.
There's your,
Yeah, that
And
I
I'll
did
say-
today.
And I'll say that if this is being tabled and are you gonna look at Microsoft or Teams Live?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at the settings for it.
Okay, so we will just push this to the November board meeting then.
While it's on the table though, someone sat down behind me last week, a man who said, I was on, but I heard nothing. Two people down said the same thing. I was sitting in the room, so I don't know.
Yeah,
But that is a pretty chronic problem, is that you either get audio but not video or not, or the other way around.
That's another issue that I recently discovered. So basically, whenever they have the room split, inside of that closet, there's an audio RCA cable that they unplug that provides the speaker feed to that back room. Because somebody else was using that room, as opposed to saying, that room is open now, we're gonna have a big meeting, we have to plug it back in. So you have.
Sign on system and
So-
such.
I mean, is a lot of this just easily solved with like a pre-meeting checklist?
Yeah,
Like, I'm gonna check to make sure this
Yeah.
cord's plugged in. I'm gonna check and make sure Zoom, like Teams is working, and I'm gonna get logged into the meeting 15 minutes before and make sure everything's functioning.
And it's important for meetings in 104 because nobody's taking the detailed notes that they need to because everybody's pressing the recordings going and you can go back and reference it. So when we miss them, it's becoming a problem.
They're like going and like talking about switching like all of our systems or the meeting over to a different technology that's different than everything else is like
There's easier
Yeah,
preventative
way
action.
bigger thing than what we could do to just like, let's check those little boxes first and see what we can do to.
In the funny part is I checked it today because I wanted to check out the transcript. And I literally saw it on the group policy and I'm like. clicked on it.
Just in-
Do we have concerns on storage though? Cause you're gonna record all meetings. If there's not a retention policy and
Oh.
we're gonna fill up.
No, so what I have is I have cloud storage, and I just move whatever's beyond a certain threshold into cloud storage, and if we need it, we could always. So.
Is there any law about how long it needs to be held?
There is.
I brought that up in the communications advisory committee, or advisory group last year. And the direction that we received was we should just keep everything forever. Now, that same person may also feel like maybe that's not the policy after this year, but
Should be 7.
There is, that's written down in 720, so we can look that up and make sure we're
I
doing
thought
that,
it was 7.
maybe. Okay, I have to go to that meeting. Thank you for having me here. Maybe I'll join you again. We ever discuss it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
So I'm just gonna keep it as is, I'm not changing the policy. And from now, it's auto record, auto transcribe. You don't have to deal with it. And then at that point, if it's something that they want to revisit and discuss.
But we've disabled YouTube, right? There's no more YouTube.
No, YouTube does exist.
Oh, no,
Yes.
I mean, YouTube's out there, but I mean, are we sending to YouTube?
Yeah.
I thought that there was a privacy concern and they
No.
disabled. Last time I tried to watch it on YouTube, I couldn't.
No, so that depends on the video. If the video is public, it's public.
No, I mean live. Watch this meeting like this meeting. I'm not gonna go down the hall and watch this
Oh, no,
meeting.
that's not live. That's not, the only thing that we do live and we've done live is the Crow board. That's it.
Oh, well, oh, this is a workshop?
Yeah, the workshop.
Okay, for Crow board meetings, let's just have a discussion of that. Is that still gonna go to YouTube Live?
No, so what we do is we use Streamlabs OBS, and then from Streamlabs, it captures the team session and forwards it to YouTube. It's a live stream, but
Yeah,
we can
Okay.
disable
Yeah.
it. It was just something that the residents wanted, and from what I heard the board wanted, and we just did it, right? So,
Okay,
but it's directly pressed from
that's a
Streamlabs.
yes. Going to YouTube.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's all I ask, because I don't want to be watching it with my head buried in a 9-inch screen. Nobody else does either. I want to go home, and watch it on the TV, we're technology committee. Should be able to watch it on a screen like that.
With the recordings, it's automatic start, but if you're in a meeting and it's not, that you can still like turn your recording off once it's already started, or is it always, everything records always?
Where, what you mean, and I could just sit from your computer, you can. If you're the organizer,
You
then
can
yes.
turn the recording, you can stop the recording. It's just an automatic
Yeah,
start. It's not an automatic, like, it's not, you've overridden the ability to record and.
So if you go on the more settings.
Yeah.
Where it says recording transcribe, you could start or stop it.
Okay.
And then at that point, or you could stop one or the other. And that I tested today when I enabled it, I said, oh, I could just keep the transcribe and stop the recording because it does voice transcribe.
So this is a workshop, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not being true.
So Anil, since you own the video conferencing, I'd like to get your opinion on some of the things that were discussed.
Keep that on.
It's not here.
Is that not? I think so. All right.
And is there chat? What's the chat say? There's a chat. the top left.
Sorry.
They're right there.
Did he have to?
I can step in though and talk with Anil on it.
Yeah, go ahead, Corbin.
Oh, what's?
You just left the meeting. Yeah, you
Can you
did.
hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll connect
Yeah.
with Anil on the topic.
Okay.
Cool.
Anything else on website or video? Corbin, do you have anything on the EV charging or just, I have some things I want to say on it.
Yeah, I don't have the report updated. I'll get that by the end of the week, but I did want to bring up the topic of, this is honestly more like sustainment, doing the
Yeah.
routine reporting. So just kind of want to get some thoughts on if it's something that the committee should continue to own monthly, or since there's a process established, if this should move into like management.
Yeah, so I got a couple things that are kind of tangent to that. Tom and I met Friday, we went over some reports. I mean, the reports the usage is going up. We have a lot of questions about repair. Do we own that? But the process we're gonna choose to decide ownership, that doesn't lie with our team, right? Who makes that choice? Is it something we vote on as a team, or is it Grand Matters, or it's a board decision of taking ownership? Because there's 3 choices.
There's a finance aspect to this
Right.
that we have to look at, right? So, because it costs.
Right.
To have it. But I think we could make a recommendation that would carry a lot of weight, whether or not we want to do it at all.
Right, so do we feel like that's a recommendation our team should make about owning?
Yeah, well, we should discuss that. I don't know if Corbin's been looking, but I've been watching the fast chargers closely. And you saw my message last week, the fast chargers were down again.
Yeah.
For more than a week. One of them was down. I believe that that's biasing the data too.
Yeah.
Because if a person pulls up and there's no fast charger, well, then he wants to charge, he uses a level 2 charger, right? And it makes it look like the usage on the level 2 charger is higher than I think it really is. Because if a person had the option, why would, unless he just wants a desirable parking place, why would he ever pull up to a level 2 charger? Right, he would pull up to a fast charger. So if he had the option. Anyway, my point is that when a charger costs $4,000 to repair, how long will that take us? You know, you saw my financial analysis. The deal that NovaCharge is offering, even if we take the lowest cost option, it would take us forever. We would never repay a repair charge. We would never get the money back because it was almost a break-even situation on average. So some chargers will make money, some chargers will lose money. I give you the analysis.
Yep.
And it's on the website for anybody that wants to look at it. But by location, by month, whether, would we make money or lose money? And on average, yeah, we would be more than making money as long as nothing breaks. Right. Now, that deal from NovaCharge was only for level 2 chargers. Was not, remember the conversation?
Right.
Right, with the NovaCharge guy. He said, no, this does not include the fast chargers. Duke Energy is not giving you the fast chargers. That raised the whole question about, well, wait a second, are the fast chargers ours or not? That you gave me the contract. I sent it over to Paul. The way I read the contract, and Paul confirmed, is that the decision to give us the chargers is solely at Duke's discretion, even after the contract ends, that they can retain them. So, and that's what I read in the contract, and you agreed with that. So now, do you have new information?
Yes, so we got on a call yesterday. They actually called us because.
So before you go down the details, I want to ask again, because I know how Corbin and Anil feel about this. They feel like this is not something our group should own, about making those decisions, looking at that data. I mean, Paul, I don't know what your opinion is that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm okay going both ways, but I hear both sides of it, that this is something our group shouldn't even own. And I know, Tom, we spent a lot of time on it. Do most people feel like this is something we should own, even with the contracts and looking at what's the best option for recommendation to the board? Or is that a board decision?
I've probably been more involved in the chargers
Yeah.
than anybody else on
Yeah.
the committee. And I agree with them that we should not be involved in these chargers anymore, right? The chargers, but somebody has to dog the chargers. If you don't dog them, they will be down for months, right? So if we could find an owner, my opinion, it should be a maintenance function of Grand Manor. Some guys are operational people, and they should dog the chargers and see, is this charger up or not? It shouldn't be me.
Right.
Calling last week,
Correct.
no charge on.
But would that be a board decision, or is that something you guys would just say we're gonna own that?
That'll be something that has to be brought up. The only thing I can speak on is what Duke Energy told us, and they gave us 3 options, and it does include the fast, they're willing to give up the fast chargers as well. So they sent us an email with the links, and we had to make a choice. One, we keep them, and then we find a carrier, which will be NovaCharge, and we would have to pay them for support contract and whatever additional charges they have. We can keep them and not have a carrier, and they'll just remove the branding, or they can remove it and repair the place and leave it the way it was.
Before we get into that part, like, go back to Corbin's question too. I think there is a split between some of the operational type work versus like, I mean, maybe we are still involved from a strategic perspective of what is the future of charging in Celebration. But as far as if reporting is just a straight up process and happens on a monthly cadence, then that kind of moves to operational. So I have no skin in the game on the EV chargers. So like, I'm just thinking about this from a process perspective and what I was hearing there.
Right. Well, I would suggest that part of the master plan, which you're gonna represent our team, you would be in those meetings, and if there are any recommendations asked of our team, you can go back to us and preface it that way. And then we can give a recommendation if asked, like, do we need more level 3 chargers, or are the locations the best places, right? And I think I'd rather see it handled that way.
Can I just point out, I don't know how many people have ever read the contract, no, Tom and I have. I don't think they ever got approval for a very significant part of the contract, which is that the private property of CROA is now no longer private property. It's public property, and you had to agree to that and waive your property rights in order to have those there. So no one ever approved that, to my knowledge. And, you know, you're talking about going into business on a losing proposition. I don't get this. You know, I read the contract and couldn't even figure out what happens if we don't accept the chargers. Forget whether they offer them or not. I can't read in that contract what happens after the 3-year time limit and their 1-year extension. It doesn't say, do they pull them out of the ground? Do they leave them there? Do they make? But I do know that for as long as the 3-year period plus 1 ran, we have waived our private property rights on that lot.
And we've been asked to put a sign up at the gate that says public entry allowed for charging.
Yeah, and that's nice, but you don't have the approval of the community to do that.
Right.
And it's no small task because you are waiving property rights to the community. That's a community vote.
Yeah.
That's not a board vote. That's a community vote. It's like selling a piece of property in town.
Yeah. But I think that shouldn't sit on our laps.
Yeah. So if you're saying this thing costs more than we ever hope to make on it, Why are we going into business?
Well, it's with the,
Well, I think that's
The
the
cost,
discussion that
it's
needs
the-
to happen. That's, I think this is the discussion that needs to happen, but doesn't address the operational part
Right.
that Corbin was
Yeah.
asking. So like, I think those things need to be separated. And we have the conversation about what does that plan look like? What does the future look like? But right now, there's also these monthly reports need to be done and somebody needs to be making sure they're following up to make sure that it's working in its current state. Then we talk about what is future state. Future state
But
maybe.
it isn't a future
Forget it.
state. We're past the time limit.
Yeah, but there's still
It is
two
now.
different pieces of thing happening, and those two things aren't necessarily, the reports are not dependent on what decision happens. That still has to
What
happen.
reports you talking?
so just for public knowledge, because we,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen those.
Yeah, but somebody has to put them together.
What does that have to do?
That was Corbin's
Okay, so-
question. So every
Okay.
month he's putting those together and the technology committee
Paul,
versus it being an operational thing that someone in Grand Manners is pulling those reports together.
yeah, Paul, this came about, I think, from last year, residents were getting up, asking for transparency about the charges.
I understand.
Right, so the reports were generated to show, here, this is.
But
everything
we're
we're
still
doing.
within the 3-year period.
Yeah.
The contract is expired. It's 3+1 now, or was it 2+1? Was it 2+1?
December
equals 3?
31st is the last day.
It was 2+1,
2+1, so that's total of 3.
This-
You're outside the contract.
There's still, yeah, there's still data, there's still being reported, they're still reporting, we're not gonna, just because the contract's done doesn't mean we're not gonna keep looking to see how much
So
money
I
is being
raised the question
generated.
about the private property because I know you're on the master plan.
Correct.
And that should be a vital concern to the community, that they have somehow waived to Duke Energy and to the community complete access to a lot that's private. But in terms of this committee, the board is never going to understand the technology.
Right.
So if you don't advise them on the technology, the board will never know what to do with this.
Oh, it's not complete access. It's access to the parking places. We're not opening, it doesn't say the whole parking lot is open to the public.
That's true.
It's
They
only
get- they get
open
to
to-
come in.
Well, they have to come through the road,
Yeah,
down the road and pull into the spot. So they can't pull in any other
It
spot.
doesn't say that. It says that this is on property
Seems
that's
like a
public.
bigger
Yeah,
discussion.
yeah,
for-
so, but let's agree, so we'll we'll stop with the reporting and we'll put it into the master plan of the decisions with the contracts.
And I'll send Tom the email to look at.
So we're not reporting now?
Is that what we agree on?
I mean, I feel like that's important.
Or we?
Data.
Somebody
Okay.
has to look at this data to know that when they're, to know that they're not being used. I mean, they're not even capable of being
Mhm.
used. Because they're down and they're down a lot.
Mhm.
They're down a lot.
Yeah, just a
Level
little bit
two
of
is great.
context.
Doesn't the
Sorry.
company, Nova, whatever, care about
Okay,
that?
Corbin, go ahead.
Corbin, go.
Just for context, so, we can get into the charge account, right? And we can see they have, pre-built dashboards, which sure are somewhat helpful, but we're able to extract more information and create our own visuals to, give us better insight on what's actually going on. So the issue is, I'm sorry, I'm pulling them just once a month. Really, it's something that I think should be done at least weekly, and then you're seeing real time, so quote unquote, what's actually going on versus you're reacting a month later as to what's going on. So in my opinion, it should move over into like a weekly routine. This is done. And then regardless of what gets added or removed, we still keep this reporting. I think it's useful. You want to see all of them. But it's more of who's going to own that continuous report out as we simultaneously move towards us being strategic. And that's what we talked about in the very beginning of, this year of the committee is like, we're supposed to be giving insight and direction. And yes, we can be the ones to develop something in the beginning, but then at some point there has to be a handoff. And with EV charging, I mean, it is infrastructure services, right? So I don't think that we really should be the owners of the decision making, but sure, we can give insight. But when it comes to this type of report, we can, infer things and then be able to provide, a direction.
So just so that I'm clear, with regards to the removal or keeping or transferring over the services to a different vendor, that we're gonna funnel to master plan group, and then, so as far as the reporting goes, we'll handle that.
Not us. Who's we?
When I say we, us internally operations, we would.
Grand Manners can handle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to say, and this is, I had a conversation with Jared and Celia. They want to remove that one charger, okay? They talked about it at the board meeting, as an open discussion at the end. I went back and had a little conversation with both of them. we talked about who would get an electrical contractor and what it would cost to pull it out of the ground. And I asked them, if this costs $20,000 to remove it. So they asked me, does Grand Matters have maintenance that can look at to do that, or would that be
No,
electric?
so in the discussion with Duke Energy,
Yeah.
what they said is if you decide to have those removed, we'll remove it entirely and have it so that everything is the way they'll leave it as best as they can the way it
So
was.
Duke will cover that cost.
They
for
will
that.
take that out. They don't.
Just one though?
No, they'll give you three different listings, level 2 fast chargers for all the locations. You click on the link and then you have to decide for each charger what you want to do.
Okay, so I go back to master plan then.
Yeah.
So
So,
can we put together, so for master plan, like, I haven't been involved with the charging, it's honestly not a passion of
Yeah.
mine, but I understand what it is and a need. Going to the master planning group, we got a lot of architects and such that they're not gonna know charging either. So I think it behooves the technology committee to come up maybe in our next agenda item to talk about what do we want to see in the master plan as the future of electric charging here in Celebration.
Wouldn't that be after they decide what the contracts are gonna be?
I think we need to kind of come up with a recommendation, because if you leave it to if you leave it to another group to recommend it, it's gonna just say, okay, well, we don't really, it's not a priority.
I said we got to December.
Are these
Yeah.
chargers still on 3 different pieces of property? They're up by the dog park, they're over there, and they're here.
So,
And here.
Okay.
and Celia just made our technology liaison. All right. See you all next time.
Thank you, Krista.
Thanks.
All right, so Tom, let's you and I continue the contract piece, and we could bring Paul if it's so.
Yeah, go ahead. I just wanted to say hello.
Thanks, Paul.
So we've kind of glossed over something very quickly there, that I just, for emphasis, want to repeat it. At the risk of sounding redundant, but I wanted to have glossed over so quickly. Grand Manners, this is moving into operational function, and then Grand Manners is gonna dog and make sure these chargers are up and look at the status of them weekly. And we're gonna get reports from them so that we do no longer have to do this. I'd be so happy if we don't have to do this anymore.
Does that go with you?
Yep, it works for me. And
Alright,
Jose,
so-
I can, walk through the reporting too with you, and we can, talk about how you want to continue it or not. So,
Okay,
What are your feelings?
I just need to know what they're gonna do first, because we're on a
Right.
deadline. We have to the 31st of December to make a decision. So once that's done, then we know we're gonna keep them.
Well, do you want to
Keep a
decide?
certain amount of them,
If
you
we
know,
don't decide by the 31st, what happens?
they're gonna assume that we own them. They're not gonna provide support for them. They remove all the Duke Energy branding, and then we have to make it.
All right, so let me propose this. So Corbin was just on the reporting part. How about you, me and Tom sit down, we'll find times next week, the week after. Let's get the contracts out and go through it, and we'll at least have a recommendation.
They won't provide us with a new contract stating what the decision is until we fill out that question.
So then we can go back to the next board meeting and present what we decided in our recommendation.
So let's say you wanted to keep the ones in Dark
Yeah.
Park and the ones here, but you want to get rid of the Lakeside one, they'll hold themselves responsible for removing all that.
That's good.
And cleaning everything up.
Does this is written down somewhere?
So yeah, so
I just wanna
so in the
clarify.
body of the email, when I'm gonna send it to you, there's gonna be some links, just go through the
Okay,
links.
I'll read
All
it.
right, so we can get more specific.
We would like to just remove one, not all
I
of
don't
it,
get regular charges, like just a regular.
or just get rid of it. If they want to take the pole out and everything,
Yeah.
not all, they want to take our DC chargers away. But the ideal word, we'd like to just have it be Duke's problem. They can continue to repair them at their expense. That would be the ideal.
Yeah, because when Tom and I were talking about it, and we keep going down the road with the charging, but Duke is gonna make money anyway, right? Anybody charges a car in Florida, they're making that money. So they don't give a crap if it's in Celebration or it's, in Winter Garden, they don't care.
Yeah. But we don't want to have to pay to repair their chargers and end up losing money on charging.
Right, and we talked about before, we think most people that are charging are not even residents. So we should be making money off. Okay,
Okay.
now let's move on to that.
Hold up,
So GoGov, I had a long conversation with Greg.
videos are up.
Huh?
The videos are there.
Okay.
You just gotta-
But here's my point to Greg, and on a call with him, I said, we're using GoGov, so we're in for GoGov, right, to the front end.
No, yeah, that's.
Right, but I told him I want a monthly meeting with his team and Angel. And I want to go through all the reports, all the incidents that are on there and hold them accountable. And I said, because we can walk whenever we want.
So,
So, and Greg promised me that we can have as much part of that. So I know when stuff gets handed to you, right, you guys own it.
nothing's been handed to me.
Not yet.
I don't have any admin access. I've been getting emails and seller service
Yeah.
about my celebration app, and I just redirected to
Okay.
Elizabeth.
So the last time I talked to Greg a week and a half ago, they didn't go live yet because they still weren't sure. Even the last meeting that he wasn't sure.
Just to give you the heads up.
So that's good, and we need to fit, because again, I told Greg, and I talked to Greg and Torben, and I talked to Dave Hume, I said, we stood up for you guys. I got up in front of a lot of people and said, and recommended, I said, you're gonna be held accountable, because if you don't handle the tickets properly, back over to Grand Manners, their tickets, I said, we can walk whenever we want. So he said 100%, because it's about the residents and the tickets and being handled properly. They're fine with they've been really good, I think you agree, making changes on the app, like if you don't like something on the app, and Tom's big on the UI, that it looks nice and it's simple and not, real complicated, they're good at making changes.
I mean, I have.
Yeah.
Like I said, all I need is access, and then at that point I could provide support on it.
All right, so I'll reach back out to Greg and talk to him. You tell me, you give me a list of what you need. You talked to Greg or?
No, everything I've done in terms of and I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at it, it's probably my mistake for not telling you guys where the folders were, which is another thing I'm gonna change on the policy, that whenever we upload something, the team gets notified. That way nobody's, but I was uploading a whole bunch of files thinking that, and the reason why you got it is I shared it with you, right? So,
We don't know what you're uploading.
so in the general, and let me just share my screen. In the Teams, under Technology Committee in general, I went and put inside of files. I created folders. Show me. EV charger documentation.
While you're looking for that, I got feedback that people were using GoGov for a CCD ticket and it was being ignored. That same person went to sell a service, put a ticket in, and somebody showed up. So they haven't even fully gone over for their own yet.
All right, so we have to create a transition process.
Yeah.
But you have your EV charger
Yeah.
documentation, your GoGo videos. The ONR diagram is for Emil to look at.
Okay.
That's the diagram he wanted to see, the
He's back
workflow
with
of the service request. So, and then there was one more website information. So inside the website information, I put a PDF that tells you how you request service for support if there was ever an issue with the website and you needed to go to the registry or the DNS.
So just as an organizational point, Jose, the stuff that you have in the general that's EV charging related should go in the EV charging
So
channel.
I'm open.
Okay, yeah, I know, I'm just pointing out, so for clarity. I don't know that we have do we have a GoGov? An ONR, I don't know if we do, it can stay there then, I'm just saying, but where we have channels, we should use those channels for the topic that we're discussing.
Got it.
So so do you think, is it your view that ONR is now gonna point to GoGov? That's agreed or not?
No, so right now, the only decision that was made was that GoGov is gonna be the tool that's gonna be used for service requests and emergency requests.
Service requests by who?
By the residents of Celebration.
Okay.
My thing now is,
That's what I just asked.
so my thing now is, I have to speak to ONR and say, I want to integrate this so that when a request is being made through ONR, it redirects them through GoGov and they can
Okay.
make the request.
Well, that's what I was asking,
Right.
exactly, so.
Could they remove that tab so there's no service request?
Oh, I could do that right now. I can remove the service request feature and that's it. The only issue is, is that then you're working with two apps.
Yeah, I agree with him, that.
And I'm just
That's the
asking.
downside of leaving a service request button in ONR and a guy presses it, it takes him to go.
No, 100%. You can even have the link
You can
saying,
disable it
So
temporarily
we could
until.
conceivably tell a Celebration resident, the only app that you need is ONR, that's it. You just one app. You don't need to go get GoGov's app. Go get ONR. When he clicks on the service request, he's going to GoGov, no matter.
Well, the experience is the same, because sometimes if it's a link, it'll take you through a web browser rather than.
Well, that was the whole idea, though. That was
No,
the
I agree.
idea, right? That's the feedback we gave.
I'm just saying is that I
Yeah.
want to make sure the experience.
Well, if it isn't, then we have to go back to GoGov and say, hey, we gotta fix this, which is what we were doing with it. Yeah.
Because, I mean, just for a quick example, so I have ADT squared at my house. When you go on you can do more on the web browser than you can on the app.
Yeah.
Right, so
Okay, so if we need to temporarily disable it, we'll temporarily disable it. What I would like is to get feedback on the presentation. What you're gonna find is that because I figured out some other tools that I used, the Goga presentation looks a lot better because I was able to actually record the whole process. So you'll see the whole process.
Did they give you the link though? I mean, that was.
No, I had to do it myself. I had to be a resident basically and just mimic the process as a resident.
and they told you when it goes live, like when it's live, cell service is shut down. If we want to host live, I mean, I'm willing to do live trainings.
So the app is already live. That's
Which, yeah.
But the back end's not.
Yeah, backend is not,
But
but
nobody's doing anything.
you
It's
can go-
there, sure. But what I'm asking you, Jose, is get ONR. If you go to the service request button and you press it, does it take you to GoGov?
no, not yet.
Okay, do you have the information that you need to make that happen?
Not yet. We were waiting on the decision to be made as to what what direction we were gonna go. Once that was decided, then I had to prepare the training videos and do it separately, and I gotta get the integration specialist.
Where we are.
Yeah. We
So
got
what we need now is the integration specialist to step in and say, okay, look, I need your apps to do this, and then they'll.
Okay.
anything else on ONR? It's up on.
So yeah, just look at the videos when you get a chance, feedback, corrections. I'm pretty sure I got a couple of typos. But that's just a quick fix and just a re-upload to the folder. Then you could send them to Greg Filak once you're approved and they can
Okay.
share it with the rest of them.
Anil, can you hear us now?
I can hear you, sorry.
Yeah, no, just, you dropped off before, just, do you have any feedback on switching from Teams to Teams live events?
No, I would stick with what we should understand is the Microsoft licenses, right? So a couple of things that I was waiting to chime in on this. Stick with Teams. Zoom is too expensive. We're already paying for Teams, but part of the Microsoft licenses agreement we have cloud space that we can use for things like recording Teams meeting. And I do it with a couple of companies that I work with where our board meetings are recorded and are available to not the general public, but you can screen that who it's available to. Obviously, if you're getting access to it behind the firewall, you can, and all you do is hit the record button and it's just recorded, and it's that link in Teams that people go in and see through that. And you can do it through live. Corbin, correct me, you can do it through Teams live as well, right?
Yep, exactly.
And the authentication isn't that bad with Teams Live. That's the one thing everyone's missing. All of these rigor that we go through, logging in through Teams and even some of the web app with Teams Live, it's simplified in that manner. But I think if we have M3, or I know we don't have M5 licenses, but if we have M3 or even M2 licenses with Microsoft, it allows us to do.
And or E.
Huh?
You're talking about, the E3 licensing?
Yeah, E3. I said M, it's E3. We have E3, right?
No, so we don't have those licensing, and that's the issue. So when whoever purchased this originally, had an agreement with CDWG, and what I'm doing is I'm phasing them out of the licensing they have, and I'm slowly transitioning people to the proper licensing, which you don't really need E3 for that. I think E1 would work just fine.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's really making sure that and it's all that managed by us internally. So right now, if I need to make a change, I got to reach out to CDWG and have their people make the change because we don't have the ability to do this.
We might be too small to go to Microsoft. That's the other thing, but that's your call, not mine.
But we did it through Microsoft directly now.
Oh, you
So
do?
all our
Okay.
licenses that we purchases, and what we do is we get discount pricing when we buy bulk.
Sweet.
Okay, so
All right, thanks, Anil.
No problem.
Documentation, can't hand off.
Oh, yes, so to answer Anil's question from the last meeting, yes, Slayton Law Firm is a company. There's multiple entities in the company that work there. And yes, I gave them a USB that was encrypted with all the accounts, all that information on hand.
But Tom also
and-
have that as well, right? So that's cool too.
Well, yeah, we have it as well. But I don't have it in my possession, and I gave them specific instructions on what to do in the event I win lotto or whatever the case may be. So that way they know that they can transition into those accounts.
But what I'm saying, Tom or someone on this board has access to that as well, correct?
No,
No, and I don't think I should. Do you think I should?
I think one of us
Alright.
should, yes. We're residents, so why not? I would be,
there's
I
a
would be,
liability issue with that.
I would be more opposed for contingency purposes. I would be more opposed of having a general counsel who the community pay for, have access to that, than someone on the technology board. And, you know, Tom, I threw your name out there because I thought that's what I read, but I apologize. But it could be, you know, it could be the chair.
So now let me give you a scenario.
Bill.
Let me give you a scenario, and tell me if this makes sense. And this is not to be accusatory, but things do happen, and pretty sure in other places have. But let's say I give somebody those keys. Something were to happen. Now, there has to be some kind of guidelines for them to be able to access those resources, or there has to be, here's the USB with all the accounts. However, the password is held by a different member, and you can't share that information with that member unless it's for reasons X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. And that's my concern with the legal. Yes, I get it. They're lawyers, but listen, I can name a handful of lawyers who went to jail for not following the law. But I like your scenario where Tom holds a set of the keys and you know, someone else holds a set of the keys. In this case, the chair would hold a set of the keys, and then something happens, they put it together. That makes more sense versus, you know, external parties.
Launch codes for October.
One being.
Alright, so, but they have it now, so, I mean, it was one of the things we wanted to achieve. At least we know someone has it outside
I
of
think you
Grand Matters.
Yeah, great, awesome, because previously, if you left the company, Grand Matters left.
Right.
We were in real trouble. We were, as we saw with the website, DNS
Yeah.
zone and all that. But Bill, could you, I mean, come on, you could weigh in on this topic. This guy's an expert in this particular area
Yeah,
about,
He's got the artisan keys.
well, actually, he does.
Well, we have a committee
Yeah,
that does.
however, we would have had attorneys if we had one. We don't have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's in lieu
But our
of
mission was to get the keys away from our management company. Because the management company was gonna go away, and they did.
Yeah.
Well, now I guess they're back, but had they left, we would have been in big trouble.
Okay.
So, but as matter of general philosophy, don't you think a third party other than even, Anil, I completely thank you for the trust, but I'm just put on a bigger hat that there should be some entity, some firm company that owns this, the controls in case we go away, that we can go to and get back this important data. This is very critical information, like all of our cameras and our servers and
we could
everything.
look up, see if they, what tech firms offer that kind of service, but.
Well, you
typically-
gave it to the attorneys though, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's it.
and we had said that that's what we would do if we had such
Yeah.
person to give it to.
Yeah, the corporation I work for, the attorneys have access
Yeah.
to all that stuff. They handle the domain name registrations. Now, they do give technical people technical level access because they have no clue on that. But, yeah, so.
So they have all that.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was a big win.
What do you think? What?
I don't disagree with any of this. I have some hesitancy on relying on a third party entity that's just like, I just think you're just kind of trading one problem for another. I mean,
But if there are third party, right?
yeah, I mean, I think the idea of having like someone who's got the USB key and then someone that's got the launch codes and you gotta, come together, and, take the two missile keys out,
That was my idea, right? That it shouldn't be one person.
Yeah.
But rather one person owns the actual spreadsheet and the other one has the encrypted key.
Yeah.
And the only way this spreadsheet's gonna open is if the encrypted key is available. And then as a fail-safe, you have a secondary person who has that encrypted key, if something were to happen to that person.
But that's not how it is now, is it, or is it?
No.
No, okay.
Right now, they have the keys to the Ferrari with
Yeah.
the whole.
Well, it's way better than it was, where we had a third-party company, management company, that if they left, we had nothing. And that's happened, that's happened to us.
Where are the spreadsheets located?
Huh?
The spreadsheets, where are they located?
They're not here no more. They're with Slayton off.
So they got the keys and the spreadsheet?
Yeah.
They got both, okay.
But can you change them?
Ivan?
Can you edit it?
No, I gave them, well, there's certain accounts I can't alter, right? So, but these are not operationally gonna destroy your organization. So for example, your domain admin, your domain controller account, your Office 365 account, all of those, there's a super admin account, and all I got is the technical accounts that.
Who do you tell the law firm, like say you guys left, Grand Meadows walked? Did you state like the board can go to them and access it, or?
That's a different question. That's for Lauren. What I gave was the
But there were
instructions.
instructions on.
Yeah,
right.
my instructions were, do not delete my account, because there's certain applications that are attached to my account. So reset the password, disable it from any mobile devices that may be connected to me, and attach it to one of your.
Right, just like what Bill said, if you guys walked and gone, the law firm has it, but then the law firm doesn't know what to do, or the board would know.
So the board would have to authorize the law firm to release it to somebody on this committee
That knows what to do.
that knows what they're doing, that then works with the new management company to reset everything up.
So there should be a standard operating procedure around that, maybe our group looks at.
So there needs to be a document that
Right.
describes this.
Right, what that process is. That's something we can just look at.
Right.
Okay.
Well, excellent.
Yeah.
That you got this done.
We're over
So,
time.
video conferencing.
We
So,
talked about that already.
so Anil, we got the Polycom, on top of the room on 104. We replaced the damaged camera. Everything appears to be working fine now. We did test it with all three cameras yesterday, and it was working. One was doing the pencil zoom and the other two were fixed. I did change the settings so they looks less grainy, so it looks a lot more sharper. We do have cameras now for Heritage Hall and Jones Room. And all we have to do is mount them, and now we have video conferencing capability at Heritage Hall and outside of here.
Sweet.
All right, and real quick, so on Gallagher, is there, go to a board vote? Is that something?
That's gonna be sent to them they're gonna receive it this week. It's almost done. It's about 5 more pages I gotta finish. But it goes to the board and it gets presented this board meeting.
Are you gonna present it? Do you need me to present it?
Well, we're gonna give it to them first. They're gonna review it. And then at that point, they're probably gonna ask questions. And if they ask questions, then we can get it all together as a unit and, hey,
I mean, I would like for our team to have maybe a little document that has, or maybe it's your, like,
the whole thing that I'm working on, you will get a copy of. So it'll have the justification, how much we spent in our current system to support.
because I think the way you, if you
Benefits.
position it to the community, we're just upgrading the key, the
No.
access on the doors because it's outdated and the maintenance is going
No.
away. But if you also present it to the benefits of the residents with, again, the digital cards, the kids will use it, I think you'll get better buy-in.
So all those details, they're gonna be there. So it's not just that we're replacing it to put another technology, but really to address all the other technological advancements,
Right, because
better use case.
it's a huge benefit to the community if they know about everything that's behind it, not just updating.
So you'll get a copy of it.
Okay. Because I'm pretty good at selling stuff.
Yeah, that's all I got for now. Again, sorry that I was delayed a bit, but this website stuff took a toll on me. Thank you so much, Bill, for helping me out. with that issue.
Any other topics anybody else wants to bring up?
No, well, I'm good.
All right, let's think maybe next meeting, maybe, and we never get to the bottom, but any new ideas you guys have, right? Anything you guys thinking about that you want to bring up, other initiatives that we can do? I mean, I think we should expand, especially if some of these are gonna be.
There are a couple, but it goes hand in hand with what now Kristen and I have to work on probably well, which is making sure that that website is on par with what it needs to be. Creating the interactive maps. I kind of played around with it and I was able to make it work. I just don't want to jump ahead and do it. And the other thing was taking our project management dashboards and embedding them to the site so that residents can see what every department is working on. And so I don't know if you see in the Monday.com, if you see the task board, but you can see all the stuff we're working on it. So it'll give them visibility and they can see, okay, they're not just idling by, they're actually doing stuff. And now we know why there's so many pain points and so many delays for whatever reason. You can see the explanation, you can see metrics, you can see workload distribution. You know, I think it's a pretty cool thing to do. I did have it on a private page on the website.
I mean, I have some ideas about some things down the road too, but I'm pretty close with the high school and the sports and the Booster Club and things. And I also know some of the owners of the restaurants downtown. I think all those things we brought together the community on the webpage from either discount codes for the restaurants, supporting our athletic teams, getting maybe student of the month or athlete of the month on our web. I mean, doing, I think, you know, more some community stuff too, I think, that I would bring up to the team.
Yeah, definitely
well
take
as Disney.
that wallpaper drives me nuts up front. We should have an area that clearly articulates, like if I launch that website right now, you just see, you know, it's a great picture, don't get me wrong, but I think like the Monday meetings and the Monday emails and the Friday emails that we get, the flat, like that should be more pronounced up front, right? And updated. It's buried in there. Like you have to dig for what's going on, where it should just be up there in front of your face.
With
Food
the
Truck
actual
Fridays.
links to be directed. So there is one more thing I want to bring up, and it's based on the experience that I had with this website thing. And getting, first of all, your buy-in and getting you involved in some of the project decision-making process while we're happening. For example, change management. We don't have that. And I said, you know what? This could have easily been a lot more visible and a lot more transparent. If we had a change management group and an email gets sent out, hey, we're gonna cut off this day. And now it's vetted, right? Because I say, hey, listen, I got this project. I need you guys to agree. And then you say, yes, boom, I sent an email out. We have it documented that it went through the proper channels. And then when we're done, we send an email, hey, we're done. If there's an issue with the project and there's a delay, then you guys are in the know through that change management group. So I don't know if you guys would like to see that or not, but I thought it was just something that I'd share.
I think it's in general a good idea, just, I don't know what limitations, like how we have the website architected. How well all these things kind of play together, you know, as
I
far
mean,
as
it's
a
way,
traditional change management process would work.
it's
so.
way better than what it was. I mean, it took long enough because we didn't have all the information, right? And we literally had to hand it over to a company and say, hey, listen, for now, until we figure out what's what, right? It didn't, and this is something that happened even prior to me being here, so it happened twice. It just so happened that I inherited it, so I gotta deal with it. But now that we have all the keys, we know what the infrastructure looks like. Now we have subject matter experts that can tell us, okay, what's the best approach? Now we can go and get those things ironed out. And the change management is really for transparency, is to tell them, hey, we're working on this. Tech committee knows about it. The world is gonna know about it. And if there's any issues, they're gonna know about it because there's a group that's already handling it, right? It'll just be under the change management email group, so they know. what's going on.
I'm the newbie. I'm learning. That's why I'm not talking very much.
But yeah, so typically you have a change management group that deals with stuff like this.
So you just generally, like, in the corporate world, people use tools like Slack.
Slack,
And there's a Slack message that goes out, hey, updates going out, backup was made before the update to make sure we got it, you know.
There's source control, you
Yeah.
know, like.
Right.
If Krista said there's 34 plugins running this WordPress site, that's more than I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so this was because it was running on a product called Team Composer.
Yeah,
And then it had like, I mean, we could grant you access, you could go.
that's what I wanted to talk to you about afterwards. Is like to go in, take a look,
Yeah,
figure it, and then
Absolutely.
talk with you about the management company that's managing it, because.
Yeah.
Just want to understand.
gotcha. So,
I have a question kind of along that. Just historically, do we know like how Freshie sites, like we're paying them to manage the website or the hosting?
they're just handling the host.
Okay.
Anything else we would have to do ourselves. If we wanted to, pay for anything else, they would.
So we're not paying a company to like build the actual website.
So they only did it initially because the site was completely down.
Okay.
So they took all that information and they said, hey, we're gonna go with Divi. We're gonna put it in and try to mimic the best we can with what we got. And there was some third-party plugins that were already deprecated and they had to use alternatives. So all they did was mirror refresh, right? Just with newer tools. Right?
So we kind of paid someone to kind of port the existing thing over with the intention that you guys are somehow gonna maintain it on your own.
Mhm.
The biggest challenge is WordPress is a constant moving river.
Yeah.
PHP is a constant moving river, and probably what happened is the version of PHP these plugins were written in is not working with 7.4 PHP. 7.4 has just been deprecated. Even WordPress says you should be on 8.1 or 8.2. Well, that's massive code breaks going from 5.6 to 7. They skipped 6 altogether to now 8. And there's a part of me that goes, somebody should be logging into that website once a month, checking and seeing what's recommended. Once a quarter will get us back in the problem we had before and it got back again. But from there, we'd have a backup.
I just didn't know if
too.
we were technically
So-
paying anybody.
So let
to-
me,
Yeah,
let me better explain. Do I know how to do these updates? Yes, but because it never really sat on my purview to manage that, I don't touch it,
Sure.
right?
And I'm not tossing
No,
money.
no. I don't touch it. All I wanted to do is make sure that it was a working site.
Yeah.
And making sure that all the bells and whistles worked as is. Once that they tell me, Jose, going forward, you're gonna run with this, no problem.
Yeah, but Jose, do you have bandwidth to do this?
Well, typically, in the world of IT, that falls under communications. Right? The only time IT would go in is what Bill is alluding to, updates. You update the WordPress plugins, you update the actual PHP, you update whatever version of
Yeah, I
WordPress is
understand
the
that.
recommended one, because you don't always go to the first one, right? But I haven't been told anything outside of that, so
Well, who's the communication team?
that's Liz Wargo.
And she has knowledge on Word.
He has some knowledge on WordPress, but they deal more on the administrative side. They're responsible
They're
for the
updating.
updating,
Yeah.
the frame,
Yeah.
just whatever you're seeing now.
I mean, the
Document,
content,
the content is where they're.
Yeah, they're
I
not.
almost want to say that if you want to change management process, we should have some kind of like joint meeting where someone from communications and someone from our team, on some kind of periodic basis gets together and
Yeah.
does some kind of review or what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Who's the liaison for communications?
Celia. Celia.
Is it Celia? All right, so
There you go.
there you go. So that works.
So
That's good.
really, so as far as me going into the website and doing these updates, that's fine, but I'm very careful with it because sometimes. Because you see a new version doesn't mean it's the best version, right? And you'll end up getting a whole new set of bugs and.
Well, if they want to change management process, you can have like a dev test and UAT site,
Yeah. There's a lot of steps there, and it needs to be more frequently enforced. Or else you'll get back to the hack scenario again.
Yeah.
So then your only safeguard is a good backup. But if you put the backup back, then they hack it again. Because
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's not, you have to maintain it, really. That's what it goes down to.
So I have questions about that. So I'll ask you some questions about that. And then I'll talk with Krista.
I mean, I lean on you guys because you're more more knowledgeable in that wheelhouse. I'm not an expert. Do I know how to do an update? Of course.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right now, I've got 12 WordPress websites that I play with. I've been coding in it for a long time, but I just got my bag of tricks that I know how to back stuff up and.
All right, so you'll reach out to Jose. I'll reach out to you with Tom on it. We'll set up a meeting. We'll get together over the contracts.
The sooner the better.
Yeah.
So I'm free. I'm even free tomorrow if you got time. You don't have to physically be here because I could email you the information if you can't make it, but if you can, even better.
Yeah.
Oh, I do go to Artisan and get a cup of coffee over there.
That's right. I'm chicken nuggets all the time.
Yeah, appreciate that. See, tomorrow's Thursday.
All right, we'll touch base after. So, all right, let's, yeah. I guess second to adjourn.
Already adjourned.
Second, yeah.
No, it's on.
Done. All right,
We have no.
second, Greg second. All right, awesome. Thank you. And, she's hi to Celia.